Retired Canadian Forces soldier Bruno Guévremont spent 15 years in this country's military, jumping out of planes, getting shot at, and diving into dangerous waters. He did 2 tours in Afghanistan, and they have indelibly stayed with him, as they have for many in the armed forces. As Remembrance Day approaches, we're pleased to welcome Bruno Guévremont to our studio to reflect on his experiences. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Steve. Thank you for having me.
I want to take you back because it was 1999 that you enlisted in the Canadian Forces because you wanted to jump out of planes, right? You want to be a paratrooper?
Well, I wanted to live what the forces were promising, a life of adventure and, do more before, 5:30 in the morning than anybody do all day, right? That was the slogan back then.
Why did that appeal to you so much, do you think?
Well, when I was very young, at the age of 10, I went and lived in Africa, Zaire at the time. Now is the Democratic Republic of Congo,
yes.
I believe so. And then at the time of Mobutu, and I went and lived there. And what it did is that it opened my eyes of how good we had it here, and also the need in the world to make it a better place. So I started this sense of service, basically. I wanted to serve, and I found that in the Boy Scouts, in the cadets, and then in the military later on. 2003,
you board a plane to Afghanistan, and you are one of the first foreign troops in Afghanistan, right? What was that like?
Yeah, rotation 0. Well, it was quite the experience, right? It's what you sign up for, and then you're going over there. After 9/11, we knew we were going to go somewhere and something was going to happen, and Afghanistan was it for Canada. So we went over there, and we were in Kabul with the International Security Assistance Force, ISAF. And we went there, and then what it gave me is a big perspective on the operational abilities between the different militaries of the world, and then and our task that needed to be done over there. We built an entire camp, and it was and seeing the country of Afghanistan for the first time. It's a beautiful country.
2009, you're on your second tour of duty in Afghanistan. You're part of a bomb disposal team in Kandahar. How'd you get that job?
Once again, the thing about the military is that it's a great platform for the ability to find yourself and to be able to reach those next level of things you didn't think you're going to be able to do. And luckily for me, that was a good situation for me to be in and find out where I could go, how far can I go.
Okay, Bruno, why would it be a good situation to try to defuse bombs? How is that a good situation?
Don't you think it's a little bit exciting?
I think it's pretty risky.
Yeah. Well, like if you're a guy who likes to jump out of planes and dive and that's the kind of stuff you're looking for, right? Obviously, and I'm going to ask you, Steve, like if you're going to watch a movie, right? You're watching a movie because the guys in the movie can do all these incredible things, and the military provided that for us.
Let's take a look at you, okay? Check the monitor up over my shoulder here. Here's you in the bomb suit. Oh my goodness, look at that. Now, that thing can't possibly protect you if a bomb goes off, right?
Well, it is designed to take an impact, obviously. The bomb suit weighs about 85 pounds, and it's really, really good. Obviously, the technology, it's all Kevlars and plating and everything in there. Well, it depends on the size of the bomb, obviously, but this is designed to keep you safe.
Now, bombs occasionally went off before you arrived, is that right?
Yeah.
And what is it like to arrive on the scene in the aftermath of that?
Well, the first thing that comes up is that you get a call that an IED has detonated. So for us,
improvised explosive device.
Yes, that is correct. And then what happens is that at that time, it's you get the internal things thinking, oh well, it's the one we didn't get to, right? And then hopefully the damage isn't too bad, and we didn't lose any lives or something like that. And it was just an IED that just detonated and affected the vehicle itself.
That's
and
your hope.
That's your hope.
But
sometimes that's not the case. And you get onto the scene and what we call the post-blast investigation. So basically we need to go in and make the scene safe, make sure there's no more IEDs or there's no more explosive, because sometimes they design that to blow up one vehicle, wait for the rescue teams to come in and everybody to gather around that vehicle and then blow another IED. So they call us up, and then we go in and then we secure that area, and then after that we have to make the investigation and actually clear the area as well.
What's the first thing you notice when you happen on a scene like that?
Well, obviously my first call over in Afghanistan was 3 suicide bombers that had detonated in a full market in front of the governor's palace. And the thing is the first thing you notice is the smell. Right, the smell of burning cars, of explosives, of burning flesh, and all these things. And after that is just about your other senses kick in about, your vision, about the destruction that's around and what you're noticing, because you still have a job to do. And the Canadian Forces are the most well-trained forces in the world, and we're really good at what we do for the simple fact that we're extremely professional, and training that is offered to us is second to none. And you just, focus on what you need to do. And the smell is the one I'm going to tell you that kind of really affects us when it comes back, because sometimes I'll even get a really strong smell of diesel here, and it'll bring me over there.
So
it's a trigger.
It has stayed with you.
Yeah, it has. It's not as intense as it used to be from when I first come back, or when I was really struggling with that post-traumatic stress injury, but it's still there. It's still around, obviously. Yeah.
Did you need that suit at some point because a bomb exploded in your presence or close to you?
No, not to the fact that a bomb exploded near us. We did have bombs that did detonate because, over there was a game of cat and mouse. So when we first got into the theater with the robot, we were really good at pulling out the explosive, tearing them apart and everything, and we could go down range with the bomb suit and just finalize and making sure the area was safe. As we got further and further down into the tour, the bad guys were making the IEDs more complex and harder to reach, and putting the obstacles for the robot and all these things, because they really wanted us to go down range. And then at a point, they even had timing devices inside that would be triggered the minute you move the IED. And then they had calculated that it would take this amount of time for us to kind of tear it apart and then go down range, and it would blow up. So, but on these 2 occasions, we blew up the robot. So yeah.
I can imagine when you were doing your job and you would see the scene of carnage in front of you, your heart rate must go like crazy, your adrenaline is pumping like crazy. I mean, it's obviously a terrifying scene, no matter how tough you are, and you're obviously a tough guy, but after witnessing something like that, how do you calm yourself down?
Yeah, well, it's a very good question, and the people that, there's a lot of people that ask, are you scared when you go down on a bomb and everything? And I come back once again to the training that we go through. It's a conditioning, basically. So when we talk about neural pathways or anything like that, it's a conditioning for us to be able to do these tasks without second thoughts. Does that make sense? So we're not scared. You're not thinking about 100 other things. You're just thinking about getting the job done.
But you got to bring yourself down somehow, I presume.
Yeah, but you know what? The adrenaline, unless when we were shot at, or something else happens that is immediate threat, is that your heart rate doesn't really go up or anything like that. It's just because you're so focused and really well trained to go and do the job. What I'm going to tell you is that because of that, when we come back home, and you're not in that situation anymore, in that environment, then your body goes, well, you know what? We haven't dealt for 6.5 months.
I see.
Let's deal with it now, because you still need to do. Because it doesn't matter which employment you did or which trade you did when you went overseas. The fact that you went overseas and were in that war zone is going to change you. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody that came back from there is not the same person. It doesn't mean that they have PTSD or that they're injured or anything, but they're not the same person, because there's nothing normal about what we see over there.
So the other shoe is going to drop eventually, as the expression goes. You like Norah Jones?
I do love Norah Jones. Norah Jones is my girl.
When would you play Norah Jones over there?
I was playing Norah Jones in between the calls. I was finding, because, like I said, you're really busy, you're doing these things, and then you're constantly operating on a sense of hypervigilance. In between the calls, I would listen to Norah Jones and just kind of chill. It would just kind of bring me down, and then making sure that I was focused onto the next call.
Bruno, I want to ask you about one job which I'm told stands out above all the others. June 2009, you get a call that there's a Taliban suicide bomber. You find out he's trying to kill the former Afghan President Hamid Karzai's half-brother, and you arrive on the scene, and then what?
So when we were first told, so once again, to put it in context, remember my first call was suicide bombers that detonated. So every time we would get a call for a suicide bomber, there was a lot of problems as well with the translation of what was actually there and what we were getting, kind of information. But usually when we would get a call for a suicide bomber, it would be either he would have detonated, so it was a post-blast investigation, or he had been shot and we just needed to deal with the explosive, which we can send the robot down and deal with it and stuff like that. But on this case, when we got there, we were told that he was still running around. So we're like, oh, we're not too sure what's going on here. So I put all the personnel back onto the vehicle and be protected by the armored vehicle. And then we started rolling down, and we noticed on a side street that 2 people were holding this man by his wrist, and he had the switches dangling. And we said, okay, here it is, this is it. And then when that happens, for us, it's about preserving life. So these 2 guys' life is at risk, and we need to deal with this immediately. So
what do you do?
So we just go down range, no bomb suit, no nothing, just a roll of gun tape and some wire cutters and some scissors. But what we did first is that we secured him with zap strap to the fence so that he couldn't move. And then there's different ways to detonate a vest, and that's the thing we need to pay attention, because he says, well, the guy, couldn't press the switches and everything. But usually, you can detonate a vest with the victim operated, which is the guy pressing the switches. There is anti-removal, so if he tries to remove it, or if you try to remove the vest, it'll blow up. There's very rare timing, right? So you only have an hour to get to your target, and this was going to detonate. And then the another one that is also common is what we call a chicken switch, which is a remote control. Oof. So if the guy gets shot or he doesn't want to detonate anymore, somebody else can detonate it from a distance. So when I was going down range with my training and everything, those are the things I'm thinking about, and what to pay attention to and how to understand how the vest is built. And the thing is that people think this is a big story. What is the biggest part of me is what transpired after that. So when I took the vest off this suicide bomber and I made it safe, and then the investigating team came and they started asking him questions, what we found out was that he was mentally challenged. He had been fasted for a week, and he was told that if he didn't do this, they were going to kill his family. So not everybody is a willing participant, and that kind of changed things for me.
Changed them in what way?
Well, it's really easy to explain that. When we get our training and when we're going through, our military career, it's easy to dehumanize the enemy, because then it's just he stands up, we shoot, we do our thing, and it's a serious job. But now with having that perspective that not everybody's a willing participant, kind of humanizes the whole thing, right? It brought an actual human face to the face of war.
So it was more difficult after that to kind of.
No, I still finished my tour and did my job and everything, but I think it might have had an impact on how I feel, about things, about war.
Harder to demonize the enemy under that circumstance?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. You're right. It gave me how should I say this? It makes me now want to research more and understand both sides of the fence when something comes up. Does that make sense?
It does, but it provokes a question in me, which is, when you are sent over there, you've volunteered for this, you weren't drafted, obviously. Do you think about whether your government is in the political right as opposed to wrong in asking you to go there?
No, not as a soldier, and not with the intention of why I joined. You go over there and you go to do your job, you listen to what the orders are, and you go and do that. That's what I'm saying, and it goes with the training, and it's our job. That's the serious job that the Canadian Forces need to do overseas, and we're really good at what we do, and we're always asked to go into conflicts because of the way we operate.
But did it ever occur to you to ask, am I here for the right reasons? Should I be here? Do we belong here?
Right.
Do you ask yourself those questions?
After that incident, I started to. Right? Because you go over there and you want to make things better, and trust me, Steve, we do. We build schools, we help the populations, and then that's what I say. In Canada, there's a different way of doing the things that we do, and I love the way that we operate as a military in the world, and that's why we're so well respected. But after the suicide bomber thing, I started opening up about questioning about what are we doing here, and Afghanistan's been invaded for decades and centuries.
Centuries, yeah.
Yeah, so they've been there, and they're so welcoming, and they're so friendly, and I think now as a citizen I can say that, right? As a civilian, I can say that now I can question whether should we send troops somewhere or not, and that's if I want to be an integral part of our country, and not I wasn't just a soldier. Now I want to be a contributor to this country, then I need to ask the right questions, and we need to be able to answer those hard questions.
Okay, so like one of those questions might have been, the British were there, the Soviets were there, now the Americans are there, the Canadians are there, and so on. Do you know whether the population ever really saw you as fully committed to putting Afghanistan back on its feet, or did they see you as just another colonial power coming in, you'd spend some time, and then they're going to be gone?
No, I would think that the reputation, once again, and the culture that we have as Canadians and our past of what we do when we go overseas is that, yeah, we're going to make the place better. We are. Okay. We are going to make the place better.
4 years ago, you got some unwelcome news from the Canadian Forces. They basically said, Bruno, thanks, but you're done. How did that message come into you?
Steve, I want to make sure that everybody understands that I was really well taken care of by the forces. I had a great career, and then the minute that I accepted the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, they took great care of me. They sent me to mental health, they got me the medication I needed and the programs and everything, and following that. But the thing is that they're doing that. They got a job to do. If you're no longer deployable, you're no longer employable. They've changed that now. The Canadian Forces have changed that now. They're not going to release you until you're ready to be released, which is I'm really happy to see. And
but that wasn't the case 4 years ago.
No, it wasn't the case 4 years ago. And the thing is that it was a difficult decision to hear, because when you join the military, they completely break you down and rebuild an identity that fits with our job that we need to do. And you're part of a team, and you're not there for yourself, you're there for others. And
so you lost a bunch of your identity, you lost your team, you lose a lot of yourself.
Yeah, you lose your tribe, you lose who you are, and you're sitting there questioning, what am I going to do next? And obviously we look at jobs that are parallel to the military, like police officer, firefighters, and all these things. But
in the meantime, you're what, 41 years old at the time?
I was 41. Yeah, 41 years old, 41 years old. Yeah.
And your life, your career as you knew it, was over.
Yeah.
So
it was difficult at the time.
Yourself,
I was destroyed. I was completely crushed. I was like, what am I going to do here? And then obviously with the struggling I was having with my injury, my marriage fell apart, and everything was falling apart, Steve. Like everything was coming undone. And at a time where you don't understand, like think about this. If you're a guy who would, like, once again, jump out of planes and dives and always pushes himself to higher heights, and then all of a sudden you're broken and we no longer need you, and you got to go home now and figure your things out. It was difficult. It was a hard pill to swallow. But once again, when you're put in difficult and challenging situation, you rise up out of that, right?
I'm going to ask you a really inappropriate question, and if you want, you tell me to go to hell and you don't want to answer it, okay? Seriously.
Yeah.
Did you think about suicide?
Yeah.
You did?
I did. Actually, that's when I reached out. When I was struggling, at first, I remember going to see the unit doctor and telling her, hey, this is what's happening. I get angry really easy, and I'm not sleeping well, and I don't feel okay, and all these things. And she, said, Bruno, I think these are symptoms for post-traumatic stress disorder. And I said, well, I don't know where you went to school, but not this guy, right? I was going up this big river in Egypt there, the Nile, right?
Okay.
So I was going up that river, and then the thing is that I pushed it aside, because you're a tough guy, and you do all these things, and you don't want to show any weaknesses. So I'm going to sort that out, right? And then it just got worse and worse, and the no sleeping, and when you never experienced anxiety or depression or anything like that, you can't explain it. So what do you do? And then it was just getting worse, and at one point, I had a plan, I had a place, I had everything, and the one thing that made me reach out for help again was I have a son, a beautiful son, and I didn't want him to grow up without a dad. So that to me was hurting more than the hurt that I was feeling. So I went to see the doctor, and I said, hey, doc, this is what's happening. And she asked once again, do you want help? Do you want us to take care of you? And I said, yeah. And then she acted right away. Within 30 minutes, somebody was taking care of me.
Good decision, Bruno.
It was. And to tell you the truth, now that what I know and what I do and all these things is, it was a good decision, because suicide doesn't end the pain. It just reassigns it.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
How old's your boy now?
He's going to be 13 next month.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Imagine what you would have missed.
Yeah, that's right there. That's just that's a big shock.
Are you, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a totally broken soldier, no future, 10 being you're perfect, good as new, where are you right now?
I would say that, you know what, I'm pretty fortunate that, you know, with the work that I've done and now that I'm doing with the veterans community and going around, I would say I'm pretty much an 8.
Good.
Yeah.
What's helped the most in terms of dealing with your post-traumatic stress and so on?
You know what? What's helped the most is the growth, is you not wanting to accept that this is an ending injury. It's not. And then also reaching out to organizations that are out there, like Wounded Warriors, like True Patriot Love, like Soldier On, that are out there actually looking for veterans to help them out. So the Veterans Day, nobody, you know, a lot of vets, we get into this thing because we were in the military and everything was taken care of, that, you know, Veterans Affair, all these organizations are going to come and take care of us, but they don't know where you are. They don't know you're in your living room or that you're struggling. It's your responsibility for you to find those organizations and go out there and say, hey, I would like to start getting involved because I'm tired of being here in my living room or doing anything. So I would say that my expedition to the North Pole was life-changing, very healing. My participation in the Invictus Games. And then definitely the biggest part of healing is helping other people's heal. So for me, helping veterans, helping first responders, helping people, and you know, at my gym and all that, when I had the gym, is what kind of helped me. And now today, it's still what drives me, right?
On the 11th hour of the 11th month, on the 11th day, I know what goes through my head, obviously. I haven't been over there. You've been over there. When the clock strikes 11 on Remembrance Day, what's going to go through your head?
Well, what goes through my head is that it's actually 3 parts. Is one, I always thank the veterans that came before us, so like World War II, Korean War, these guys that came before us and made Canada what it is today, and gave us this opportunity to be able to serve just like they did. And then 2 is I remember my friends that we lost over in Afghanistan on the 2 tours that I served. Obviously, they paid the ultimate price. And then 3 is that I think and remember all my friends that died here of suicide, right, after coming back. So, because they obviously never came back from Afghanistan.
The war didn't end for them.
It didn't end, right? So, and I know the struggle because I obviously went through it. And so I think about them because they're also, they died in Afghanistan is what happened, right? They just came back home and then they couldn't handle it. And then they made the wrong decision at the time. But I remember them because it's important. It's important that we remember everybody.
Do you think there's anything we can do to create, and I don't know what the right word is here, but either more resiliency or take better care of soldiers before they go over so they can be better prepared for what they're going to see over there, so that when their tour ends and they come back here and they've got to reintegrate in society, it's not going to be such a stark contrast? Well,
that's the million-dollar question, actually, because once again, like I said, I had an incredible career in the military, and the military's primary job is to keep us safe and to do that serious job that needs to be done. But I did approach them about a program that's very similar to the Olympic program, which is called the Game Plan, which because they realized that when athletes went through their training and then they were so focused and then they went to the Olympics, that on the other side of the Olympics, there was nothing. And a lot of athletes were actually going through depression, suicide, and dependence and all these things. So they created the Game Plan, which is basically the minute you join the Olympic program, you start working on your career or what you're going to do after the Olympics. So based on that, I created a plan with the help of a friend, and I called it After Action, right? After Action. And it's kind of based on that to get people that when they do join, they're already kind of working on skills, and because that's what I find the transition a little bit harder, and to what happens after when you're done with the Canadian Force, so when you're done with doing your work, and to facilitate the transition out. Because right now, it's a big precipice.
Indeed.
It's very hard for people because we're not speaking the same language. I had to learn the corporate language. I had to learn how to speak, and just something as simple as how to dress, right? Because we wear a uniform all the time. I always say that the Canadian Forces people are 10 years back in fashion. We're still wearing acid wash jeans. But the thing is that that's simple, and how to address and how to approach people in a network setting that for you is absolutely normal, but for us, we've never been through that. So these skills of how to transition out would be really good. I think that would be a good plan, and I think that the Canadian Forces are going to work on that.
Can I ask you one last thing?
Yeah.
Can you lift up your left sleeve?
Yeah.
What do you got there?
It's St. Michael's, right? He's the patron saint of paratrooper, and he's you know, the archangel, and he's putting the devil in hell.
Did you get to do some of that? Put the devil in hell?
Yeah, you know, fighting your demons and doing that is it was challenging, Steve. It was. It really was. But there is help out there, and there's and the first thing you need to do is reach out. And actually, when you meet other peers and you talk to guys who've been through it, it helps so much. And I'm going to tell you that when you help one veteran, he turns around and to help 10 others. That's the thing about, you know, because we never got out of our teamwork and not leaving a guy behind.
I know who I'm going to be thinking about on Remembrance Day. You.
Oh, thank you.
Bruno Guévremont, Canadian Forces veteran, Invictus Games ambassador, captain of Team Canada in 2016, incidentally. So good to meet you, and thanks a lot for coming in and sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Merci, monsieur.
Merci beaucoup.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.